All right, I think we've got our 6 for quorum. We're expecting maybe one more, and it's 5:30. So let's call the meeting to order. And then whoever else is going to join us can join when they're available. So Jessica Ann, could you help with the roll call, please?
Sure. Kevin Boyd.
Here.
Carl Brown won't be here. Helen Burford.
Present.
Sharon DeGraw.
Here.
Cecile Koonsley. Expected. Lindy Keipel.
Here.
Quentin Pitson.
Here.
Jordan Sellergren. Not expected. Austin Wu.
Here.
And Cecile is joining us now.
Great. All right, so we'll move on to item C, any public discussion of anything that's not on the agenda. I don't know that I see anyone. If you are, just come off mute or raise your hand and we'll get you going here. All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the certificates of appropriateness, item D. The first one is 120 North Dodge Street. Turn it over to Jessica.
Okay.
I'm going to date myself. I know Sarah Linda, who lived there when I was in college.
Okay, 120 North Dodge Street in the Goosetown Horace Mann Conservation District. It's down here on the alley. It is a contributing property. It consists of the older part built in the 1850s with an addition in the 1870s. There were likely some detail here that has been removed, but the site inventory form talks about the porch having some Gothic revival detailing because of the fact that these arches are so low, and there's some detailing in the door canopy. Some of the Greek revival is also in the surround of the door with the transom and the small side lights. Here's just another angle of the front of the house. This front stoop and steps and the rear addition were done at a later date. This is looking at the area where the proposed screen porch will be attached. It'll be attached next to this brick part of the addition. So it'll be nestled in right here. The roof line will just be a continuation of what you see here, not this detail. This board and batten part of the addition is a little bit later. This was likely a rebuilt part of maybe where the historic kitchen addition was, but this detail will not be copied. So this is looking at the site plan. So we have the front of the house where we have that entrance and some steps down to the alley. Here's the porch. And the new screened-in porch proposes to go in here next to the one-story addition. It extends, as you can see, a little bit past the brick portion of the addition, more to align better with the board and batten portion. I would assume this is to make this space more usable. If it was to stop here, it just makes it a little bit more small and cramped. It is stopping short of the north edge of the house so that the roof line can terminate there. I don't know, this looks a little out of focus to me, but I think it's because it's enlarged so much. So I apologize for that. This is looking at that rear view again. So this is where there's a tree currently. That brick part of the addition and the board and batten portion is over here. So you can see how they'll have a screen porch, it'll have a screen door. Aligned under this window on the first floor is a window that will be replaced with a door to the house. This is the side view. There is a window in that brick addition that'll just stay there. It shows you basically they're continuing the roof line. There was some talk in the staff report about the I wasn't sure which materials the application talked about. Some of the materials in the drawings were just slightly different. This is talking about plywood fascia and trim to match existing, meaning wood. That would be appropriate. I think there was some discussion of maybe using a material like AZEK instead, which, you know, considering the age of the house and I guess the importance of this property, staff would not recommend that in particular. There was also a little bit of inconsistency between the application and the drawing for the porch floor. In this case, I think that staff would recommend any tongue and groove porch floor because this is a porch with a roof. That is something we customarily do, is have a tongue and groove porch floor. There is both the wood materials that we're all aware of, such as Douglas fir, likely a treated tongue and groove. There's also an AZEK product for the porch floor. If the cut end, the edge is eased, it does look pretty good. I know that Quentin has installed that before on a project. Staff would recommend approving either of those materials for the floor here. It's on the north side. It's pretty shaded and kind of moist area. So not confining the floor itself to just Douglas fir or a treated wood, staff would consider appropriate. I don't know if I have more. So those are the only images I have here. Again, staff would recommend the wood for the porch and the trim and the fascia itself, and something tongue and groove for the floor. Otherwise, staff finds this appropriate. So I have here the recommended motion that includes updating the drawings with those two things. I think it's just a matter of changing the notes in the drawings in particular. And I guess I'll just leave this up if that works for you guys.
It should, well, it should, except for if we have somebody, oh, if they talk, they'll just show up. Is that right, Jessica?
I believe so. Mhm.
Okay, perfect.
We'll see how
okay.
it works.
All right, let's test it. All right, so any kind of just clarifying questions for Jessica? We'll have an opportunity to discuss here in a second as a commission.
One concern I have is if they do go with a tongue and groove wood floor, I don't see any detail on how they would allow rainwater to get out and snow, blowing snow, that, you know, there's not much overhang on the one side.
Mhm.
And especially if it's wood that's usually painted. The AZAC would be more forgiving even when it got wet, and water eventually would probably dissipate through the cracks. But I'm just afraid with a wood tongue and groove, even if it's dug per vertical grain, and they'd probably be painted, it could be some rot problems that have.
Mhm.
And normally, I don't know, normally the floor goes down and the posts for the framing go on top of that, maybe a plate, I don't know. There's different ways of doing it. That's the only thing that I wanted to say.
I think that we would recommend that they slope the floor away, probably from the long side, like as would be traditional, and then provide some kind of way to weep or set the framing for the screen so that water can get out beneath.
Yeah.
But Olga is the architect who has drawn this, and we could also ask her.
Yep. I'm gonna skip to move to the kind of opening the public hearing. So if we've got any of the folks who represent the property owner or folks speaking on behalf of the property owner, now would be a good time to say something. You're not required to, but are welcome to.
So can I say something?
Yes,
please.
Okay. Yeah, we are going to slope the floor. It's going to be, idea is to go with the Douglas fir, because actually that's used on the front porch also of the house. We are planning to stain that with some kind of, or seal with something. So we probably will just go with some clear sealer or stain for that. The way how we are planning to take water away is with it's not going to be sloped the longer way. It's going to be actually shorter way, because that's how the boards are going to be installed. And we had a couple of options how we can actually deal with that water. One is just to make a little openings on the bottom of the screens at the end. So that will actually be one option. Another option is we talk about maybe finishing the boards a little bit away from the wall itself and making like a little openings. So actually the water will drain down. We can deal with those details, and if you really need them, I will work on them and actually have a chance to give you to approve. But I think we will have a kind of a way to deal with that. So that's not something that we didn't think about. The owner of the house, she never had a problem with the Douglas fir that she has at the front of the porch, and it's open porch. So she was even thinking to keep that without any stain or seal, but I think we will definitely finish it up. I'm not sure that maybe we will put some kind of a pigment also, but we are not sure yet about that. The other thing is also about that AZEK versus wood for the trim. I know that you recommend wood, and that's what we actually were planning to do. But because of the market and everything, and also because of the durability of AZEK, we would just like to have that like an open option, if we can use that in a case that we have any trouble, finding wood, or maybe actually if it's priced too high at this point. AZEK actually can look pretty good like a wood, and it's going to be painted anyway. So that's just one thing that I would like to add.
Olga, I want to clarify something with you. So when you talk about sloping the floor so the water drains off, what I meant maybe was perpendicular to the long wall, maybe perpendicular to that brick kitchen addition.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Is that what you meant too?
That's what
Okay,
yeah.
Great.
So that's how we are going, actually, that the boards are, Douglas fir boards are going to run that direction too, so. Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
So I don't know if anything, and yeah, I had some like optional drawings. Unfortunately, I had both options, like for a track or Douglas fir, so I will remove that track, because at that time we weren't sure which one we are going to use.
Could I say something?
Yes.
Yep.
I would, if you can, get vertical grain Douglas fir.
Vertical grain.
Yeah, it wears a lot better and holds paint and finish a lot better.
Okay, I will note that. Okay. Okay, we will see what we can do.
Yeah, I think Quentin is just offering his expertise suggestion. That's not a requirement.
Excellent. That's excellent. I will definitely, look at it. I will, John Martinek is working with me also on this project. So he will be the one who is looking for material. So he's going to help me with that also.
We would write the approval, actually vertical grain Douglas fir, that's what we standard do. And if the commission wants to leave the option open for the AZEK for instead of wood for the trim, they just need to say the motion to include that.
Great. Do we have any other commissioners? Do we have any other questions for Olga? All right. Hearing none, I think if you would just start talking, you'd show up. Do we have any other members of the public who would like to speak? Any other property owner, any others? You're welcome to, not required to. And any other members of the public, just start talking because I can't.
Go ahead, Karen.
So I am the owner of the property, and I just do want to sort of clarify that we would like to, because of availability of materials and cost of materials, that we would like whatever is written to provide us with some flexibility. As Olga said, I'm not sure I want to go forward with the project if I can't afford Douglas fir for the flooring, but availability and cost is what everybody's up against right now. And obviously any trim that's painted, it's on the back of the house. You're not going to know what the material is under the paint.
Thank you, Karen. Any other members of the public before we kind of close the public hearing and have commission conversations? All right, hearing none, we're going to close the public hearing. Commissioners, do you guys have thoughts?
Is that me? Should I say?
No. Sorry, Olga. No, it's the commission kind of talking amongst ourselves.
Okay.
We've kind of heard we've seen all the evidence and had you guys had an opportunity to talk. We're kind of, yep.
I think the project looks fine, and we should just prepare the wording for giving them flexibility on the materials.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with the material flexibility as well, Sherry.
I agree.
I agree also.
Great. I think that's at least a majority of us. Or do we have any other folks want to say anything? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion as written, and then with the addition of the flexibility of materials on that. We're writing it to include ASICs, or are we in a broader scope here?
Heupel, I move to approve a certificate of appropriateness for the project at 120 North Dodge Street as presented in the staff report with the following conditions. The drawings are updated with the tongue and groove floor and wood trim, and the option to use AZEC is or wood is approved.
Great. Do we have a second?
DeGraw, a second.
All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. Thank you. All right, on to number 2, an item D, certificate of appropriateness for 815 Bloomington Street.
Hey, 815 Bloomington Street is also in the Goosetown Horace Mann Conservation District. It is located over here. It is this a bungalow. It has some kind of neoclassical details. There's a kind of a short Palladian window, this frieze in above the porch. As you can see, the house is clad right now in, I believe it's aluminum siding. It currently has a standing seam metal roof. It is in a very deteriorated condition. This is not a roof that can be repaired. It would need to be replaced. In this neighborhood, they do not need to actually have approval to replace the roof material, but because of the fact that there is this internal gutter that exists, they need approval to remove that. This is something that is likely to come up a few times. We have quite a few roofs like this where the roof replaced a wood shingle. When it had a wood shingle, it likely had no gutters at all. And so when they put the metal roof on, they built an internal gutter that's located within the slope of the roof. I know that there's a house, well, 533 Summit on the corner of Bowery and Summit has some remnants of an internal gutter that's not functioning. 409 Summit has an internal gutter that is likely also going to have to be removed. So this will come up a few times in the future, I'm sure. With the current metal roof construction, it's likely not possible to reconstruct an internal gutter like this. Anything's possible with the right craftsman, of course, but logistically and within even what most of our contractors and roofers are going to do, it's not possible. For 409 Summit, which will come up again in the future, we actually had Renaissance Roofing come out and look at that kind of gutter and situation. And they also agreed that it was not something that could be constructed in the new materials. And so at this time with this roof, it will be replaced. The metal roof will be replaced with an asphalt architectural shingle, which would be considered appropriate. It would be similar to the original wood roof that is still under the metal. But at this point, staff recommends the commission allowing the internal gutter to be removed permanently and not reconstructed. In this particular case, the house does have external gutters already located there. So the only change will be to remove the internal gutter from the slope when the metal roof is removed. Here's just another picture of it. And then the recommended motion would be to approve the removal of the internal gutter.
So any kind of clarifying questions for Jessica? I have one, but I'll wait and see if other folks do. All right, hearing none. So Jessica, I'll make sure I'm understanding this right. In a conservation district, or at least in the Goosetown Conservation District, you can replace roof material without our approval, but the internal gutter is the thing that we're approving. It's required. And there are different kind of internal gutter situations that we may want to look at differently. Right? That's my understanding. Some of them are built like this that are kind of just kind of built into the roof. Others are kind of dug out.
Yeah, this would be considered kind of a retrofit because the house would have originally had the just, a normal slope of a roof with wood shingles and the water just drained off. And when this was put on, they built this kind of internal gutter. The other kind of internal gutter that you're thinking about is typically with Italianate or Greek Revival, sometimes mostly Italianate homes where they really have a wide pan at the end of the roof slope at the eave. And that pan usually has brackets and detailing underneath that is the wood box. And then there's a metal pan inside the gutter. And so in order to remove that, it really involves changing the roof slope and the details. And so that type of internal gutter is a different thing.
Great. I just wanted to clarify that we've got a couple different kinds of internal gutter issues that come before us and where they fit. So, okay, any other questions for Jessica? These are just kind of clarifying questions about what she just presented. We'll obviously have an opportunity to discuss after the public hearing. If not, all right, we'll open the public hearing. If there's any homeowners or people representing the homeowners that would like to speak, you're more than welcome to. Now is a good time, but you do not have to.
Yeah, hi, here we are. I don't know if you can see, my name is Horatio, Teresa. We're the owners of the house. Our daughter is also going to be living here and working at the University of Iowa. We're extremely happy. As you can see the background, we're doing a lot of restoration, and we do want to keep the house as original as possible. So I really appreciate the work you guys doing and trying to keep the neighborhood as original as possible. In this particular case with the roof, I really appreciate your help, because we went through 3 roofers and all 3 said it's impossible. It would be super expensive to do it other ways. And we're trying to match the houses on the next door and the other one, so it flows well with the block and the neighborhood. So it's going to be looking, well, much better than it's looking right now. And it's leaking. Yeah, it's leaking right now. So we got to do it quickly and get that over. But yeah, we're trying to keep all the wood and as best we can, and all the details as original as possible. And we're also talking about removing the siding, the metal siding, which I'm pretty sure you guys don't like it. We don't either. But that will be probably a project for the future.
Great. Thank you, Horatio.
No worries.
Any other members of the public that would like to address us on this particular topic? All right, if there are none, let's close the public hearing. Any commission conversation? If there's no conversation, I think we can move to, someone want to make a motion?
Moves to approve a certificate of appropriateness for the project at 815 Bloomington as presented in the staff report.
Pipel, second.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. Thank you. Looking forward to seeing you're in my neighborhood, Horatio. I'm looking forward to kind of walking by and watching the progress. Thank you.
It will be my honor, and we'll love for you to see what we have done on the side of the house. It's just been a month and a half working 10 hours a day. So I'd love for you to see it.
All right, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Stop by. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Yep, thank you. All right, number 3, 638 South Governor Street.
Okay, 638 South Governor is in the Governor Lucas Street Conservation District. It is located down here. This house is fairly intact, has original windows, siding, trim. It is an interesting kind of 2-story with a 1-story side addition. The owner is an architect and has drawn for us. They propose to do 2 things to this house that need your approval. The first is to add a pair of French doors to the 1-story addition to the rear. It is honestly very hard to photograph this because of there's a barn-like house that sits right behind the house on the lot. But this is just an unadorned lap siding, 1-story addition. There's no window or anything, and they propose to put a French door there. And then on the side, so this is the south side. You were looking at the front over here. Here's the 1-story kitchen addition. The French doors would go back on the back, but on the side, there is a double hung window. It's already not quite the same size as the other double hung windows on the house because it's part of a later addition, but they propose simply to replace this window with a new double hung window that will have a raised sill because they'll be remodeling this kitchen. They had submitted a window that would not be appropriate because it's a replacement window, which is meant to go inside the frame, the existing frame. So staff would work with them to find an appropriate new window to go in that location instead. And so the recommended motion for this project would involve that condition that the window product is still submitted. They showed us on site, we visited the site, and they have in the barn house in the back, they have a French door that's wood that they propose to use the same kind for the new addition. And as a wood French door, full light, nice wide bottom rail, staff would recommend approving that as well. So that's all.
Great. Any kind of clarifying questions for Jessica? If not, we'll open the public hearing. If the property owner or anyone representing them would like to speak, now is a great time. You are not obligated to. I can't tell if anyone's coming on. All right, doesn't look like it. Okay. We'll close the public hearing. Any commission conversation, discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Yes. Okay. I move to approve a certificate of appropriateness for the project at 638 South Governor Street as presented in the staff report with the following condition: that the window product information is approved by staff.
Gra-
Fitson, second.
Okay.
Got it's in second. All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Great. On to item E, the review of property classification. Sorry, let me slow down. The review of property classification at 721 Dearborn Street.
This came up because the owner of this house had inquired about using our historic preservation fund for painting and other repairs. And it was determined that the house is actually considered non-historic, which would make it not eligible for our historic preservation fund. The house, let's see. And it's 721, right? I get confused. This is the, I believe it's the 1933 to 1948 Sanborn fire insurance map. So this is the digital version from online. That's why it's a little harder to read. Oh, Dearborn, here, this is where we need to be. Sorry. So this is actually, yes, this is the 1933 to 1948. So this is where the house would be located. And as you can see, it is not located there. So by 1948, it was not built. This is a photograph of the map we have here in the office. So all of the maps are colored, just so in case you don't know that. And just briefly, we have Dearborn Street, we have 721. In the original plat, it was lot 18. It is a dwelling, there's a D, it is 1 story, there's a 1. Yellow means that it's a wood frame building, and the dot means some kind of roof material that I'd have to look up. But it does show on the map that the city has that this was built. We know that the city updated their map into the 1970s. We know that the house is a minimal traditional house. They were built typically between 1935 and around 1950 or so. We believe this was built after the Sanborn map that is the 1933 to 48. So we believe it was built probably between 48 and 50. And because that would mean that it is historic, it is older than 50 years old. There is a discussion in the memo that I wrote about whether or not it would be contributing or non-contributing. And really staff feels that the only way we could decide if it would be contributing or not would involve a much larger look at the rest of this conservation district to see if generally houses of that era should be included in the period of significance. And that's not really the subject of this. So at this point in time, knowing that the house would be historic, we would, staff recommends changing it to non-contributing in this conservation district. And here's another shot of it. And I'm sorry, I did not review the fact that my helper did not put the recommended motion in this portion of the slideshow. Sorry about that. So I will go to it. It's basically move to approve the reclassification of the house at 721 Dearborn Street as non-contributing to the Dearborn Street Conservation District, as I wrote in the memo.
Great. Do we have any members of the public who want to speak on this topic? Okay, seeing none. Any questions for Jessica? Any discussion on the commission?
Just a question. Does this house have siding on it, or is that the wood siding? I can't quite tell.
It is the wood siding.
Okay.
This house has its original windows and siding and probably original entry canopy, but not original railing there in that photo.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions, discussion?
Do we know if there are other houses similar that will be seeking declassification?
It's always possible. I know that there are other minimal traditional houses in this neighborhood. That's why someday when we do this, review this district, we might want to consider whether or not to change the period of significance. If there's, a significant number of the same era that houses were built as infill, but at this point, this is the only one that has come to our attention.
If
Once
you,
it's reclassified, will the commission be reviewing requests for the funding project?
I believe that they will submit an application for funding for painting.
I think you guys remember we have in our work plan kind of updating our maps. It was a recommendation from the city attorney a while back. And I think I kind of emailed with Jessica and Ann about this when we were talking about putting this on the agenda. And, I think it makes sense for us to kind of take all of our districts and think about them kind of as groupings to kind of, I sent over to Jessica some proposed, places where we should clean up the maps in the north side and Brown Street and the kind of the four historic districts and conservation districts kind of north of Jefferson and North. And then I think we'll try to get those done as a group. Each of those districts reclassification of any kind of properties. Sometimes there's like a house that burned down is still and is no longer there, is now listed as a historic contributing property. It obviously isn't. Or someone built a porch, reconstructed a porch, and now it's contributing. So I think the idea is that we will try to do, 3 or 4 districts kind of over the next 3 or 4 years to kind of just clean them up and then try to get on a regular schedule of reviewing them. But we haven't done it since we've created them. And so we may get kind of one-off requests for one reason or another to have something fit better what it should. So that's kind of where we're at with this one-off request. Any other conversation, discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
All right. I move to approve the reclassification of the house at 721 Dearborn Street as non-contributing to the Dearborn Street Conservation District.
DeGraw, a second.
Great. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. All right, we're on to item F, review of draft exceptions for citing guidelines per city council requests.
Do you want me to stop sharing for this?
Yeah, I was going to bring up
Mhm.
something else, so that'd be great. Thanks. Good evening, everyone. Ann Russett with Neighborhood and Development Services. If you recall from your last meeting, you discussed the proposed amendment to our citing guidelines, and the commission had recommended that staff work on making some changes to the draft. So I just wanted to go through the revised draft amendment with you. I just put it in a Word document here, so that's what I was planning on sharing. One of the comments from the commission was to make note in the draft amendment that modern siding can also cause moisture issues within historic buildings. So we added a statement to that effect here. There was also a recommendation that the exception include information on ways on energy efficiency with historic homes. There's already a section within the guidelines that speaks to energy efficiency. So the draft amendment would include a reference to this section of the guidelines that outlines a variety of ways that homeowners of historic homes can improve energy efficiency, from insulating your attic to putting on storm windows. So that reference has been made. And then There was also a recommendation from the commission that additional language and clarification be provided on what is meant by technical challenges and economic challenges, which is referenced here in the amendment. So the additional text here you see in red is the proposed addition. In terms of technical challenges, it really speaks to situations where property owners have both synthetic siding over original wood siding, and there's evidence of modern insulation within the exterior wall of a historic home. We have seen issues where there's been synthetic siding and modern insulation, and there haven't been moisture issues, but there's no guarantee that the combination of those two things won't result in moisture problems in the future. So what we've added is if that one technical challenge that could exist for property owners is a situation in which they have both synthetic siding covering wood siding and modern insulation. For economic challenges, in the draft of this amendment, we've already had included a note that the most sustainable and affordable way to make an improvement on your home if there's synthetic siding is to repair the original wood siding. So that is noted here. So I just wanted to point that out, that's probably going to be the most economic solution for a homeowner. In terms of an economic challenge, we've added some proposed language that speaks to the fact that to make a case that there is an economic challenge, that the property owner would have to submit some detailed cost estimates to be considered by the commission, demonstrating that complying with the guidelines would be too expensive and that they would have another solution that is reasonable. And then additionally, there's just a statement that the staff and the commission could evaluate other technical and economic challenges on a case-by-case basis. So that's all I have. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Ann. I've got a couple just comments and questions, but I'll let other folks start. If other folks would like me to start, I will. And I think just a few things. I think one, I think the addition of reminding folks to head to the section 4.4, the energy efficiency thing, is a great solution to kind of our request. I think the economic challenges paragraph, I think, gives us very clear guidance of like how I think I can anticipate what this would look like as a commissioner when it comes to us, right? Like, hey, here's what the guidelines ask, here's what the cost estimates are. Here's what we're proposing to do and what those costs are. So I think that is super clear, and I can kind of envision what that looks like. I'm trying to just, I think, understand a little more about. I think it's, and the technical challenge section, I think by itself makes sense, but when I pair it, and when I pair it with this, I'm trying to figure out if we're defining the technical challenges could include this particular situation you described, but it also kind of implies it could include some other situation. That makes sense. And I think the same with the economic challenge. With these use of the word "could" here seems to me to be in both of them it seems more like they're examples rather than like, hey, when there's an economic challenge unrelated to citing, here's how you approach it. And then the staff or the commission can evaluate if it's something else, right? So I don't know if these make sense to kind of just technical challenges in this particular case means this, economic challenge in this case means this, and then the commission could review something that's similar on a case-by-case basis. I think that kind of, they seem to kind of, that seemed to clean it up a little bit for me as I was thinking about it, but I don't know about others. I could kind of start to, these I think help me start to envision how we would actually evaluate the choices we're making in the context rather than kind of this open-ended discussion. But those are kind of my thoughts and open to the kind of the commission's additional thoughts and suggestions.
say something?
Yep.
I never know whether I'm on mute or not.
You're just really quiet, Cecile.
Okay. I really appreciate the efforts of the staff to clarify and in an attempt to define what is meant by these technical and economic factors that can complicate and challenge a homeowner's project. But I'm afraid that one of the explanations serves only to make the issue of siting a more confusing and ultimately a more time-consuming one for all parties involved, commissioners and homeowners. The technical explanation pertaining to insulation means that even without an existing moisture problem, the mere assumption of the potential for a future moisture problem due to modern insulation in old walls becomes a sufficient reason to justify removing the original wood siding and to replace it with non-wood siding. And so as I read this explanation, it seems to me that this definition leads to an inability of the commission to rely on our preservation guidelines, and it weakens our preservation guidelines. Anybody can say, oh, well, I don't have a moisture problem now, but I could 2 years from now or 10 years from now. And so I'm going to take off that wood siding and put on something else. So that's the fault I see with that one. And I just want to say that, you know, at every meeting we have, tonight's a perfect example. I don't have the figures, but we approve more projects than we deny. And we bend over backwards to satisfy homeowners. And proof of that is this particular issue of siding. If you look at the amount of time and effort that staff and commissioners have put in on it. So I think we just really have to be careful about weakening, making every case that comes up a separate one that has to be weighed separately according to different standards instead of just following our guidelines.
I'm still hoping this won't come up frequently. And I still like the idea of reviewing it in 5 years to see how many people actually do consider removing their wood siding to put some kind of synthetic siding. Yeah.
I would just say I think it's definitely an improvement. I think it's more specific than what we had before, and it definitely, I think, gives all of us and homeowners a better idea of what is and is not allowed. And I think it does that in a way that's not too specific, but definitely clears up those vague concerns that we were having. So I think it's a great middle point.
Austin, Helen, Quentin here. The commissioners haven't said anything. You don't have to. I'm just giving you an opportunity to.
Okay.
I've often been torn by the fact that if someone comes to the commission and realizes that they have to address their siding issue, that it is, and then they decide that they will take it on. They must be, they must realize that it is expensive. And what I don't understand is why we as a community don't want to encourage people to make these kinds of choices. And I brought this up before, but once this is done on a house, they're going to be assessed. Their tax assessment is going to reflect the work that they've chosen to do. And I think that if there was some way to encourage this by providing a moratorium on the tax assessment to encourage them in terms of the economic challenges, that would be progressive. So, can of worms. I think Ann did a fantastic job with this.
Yeah, I guess the only thing I'll add here is that I would agree with this notion of can of worms. I don't have a lot of experience with this kind of issue, so I feel like that's why I didn't comment earlier. I just felt like I didn't have anything useful to add one way or the other.
Do we, Cecile, I've been listening and reflecting on your, I mean, I've been listening to everyone's comments, but I've been reflecting on yours in particular, and wonder if like if we include the technical challenges that include some evidence of moisture damage, right? I mean, I think that's if the technical challenge include moisture damage, and we've got the economic challenge, right? Either one could be applied in a case, right? And I think that might help narrow the scope of, I think, some of the concerns around the technical challenges, right? It doesn't let someone say, this might be the case. They could either say, if someone's coming for us with a proposal to remove their synthetic siding and remove the original siding, they could come to us with two options. One is either, hey, we've got moisture damage and it's not gonna work. Or the other is, hey, we've got these economic, and with some documentation of that. Or they come with economic challenge and say, hey, look, because of a bunch of these other conditions, and I think Carl said this last meeting, that these technical challenges as they add up reflect that the economic challenges, right? If there's multiple technical challenges, collectively they form an economic challenge. And again, these are designed so the commission will review them, right? I think we're kind of getting some guidelines here that they could come to us with either a technical challenge or an economic challenge. And I like the idea of maybe narrowing the technical challenge a bit to show that there is evidence of moisture, rather than just saying, Cecile, what you suggested could happen is that someone said down the road there might be.
Right now, the document says there may be moisture problem, there may not be. There's a potential for it. And if it comes up, you know, if I feel I have a potential, then that the way it's written is reason enough to take it off even without evidence. So maybe your solution is right. I'd like to hear what Quentin says about it from a builder's point of view.
Honestly, I don't quite understand the cause of moisture problems in walls and old houses. Sometimes it's associated with modern insulation, but not sure how removing the old siding and putting new siding on resolves any moisture problems either.
Right.
But it's, like you said, a can of worms, or like Helen said.
Do folks feel like we narrowed opening the can of worms if we think about the technical challenge component as the evidence of moisture? Wait, let me, well, that's one question. And then, because we still have as written, we still have the opportunity for economic challenges, right? So if the technical challenge isn't the evidence of moisture, but is a series of other problems that we can't necessarily foresee, we can take a look at what those cost proposals look like with the economic challenges.
But we do, you know, in terms of flexibility, we do have that grant program available to help people who are encountering economic challenges with projects. So to me, that's built-in flexibility right there. And as Quentin says, if you take off one form of siding only to replace it with another, how have you solved a moisture problem?
Yeah, I think, Cecile, I feel like we have to do something here, right? I think I mentioned that last month, that I agree with almost everything you're saying. I'm just trying to find a solution that gets us something that the council will adopt and is kind of eases us into this road rather than kind of opening a can of worms. That's what I'm trying to get to.
But I think this road does open a can of worms. I don't think council fully understands what's involved in fixing old houses and maintaining old houses. They just think someone is aggrieved and so we've got to make it right. But we're only creating more problems as I see it. But I guess I'm the lone speaker on this. I will be consistent in my point of view. That's all I can say.
Yeah. Anyway, I take your point to heart, and I do think it's important that we maybe narrow the technical challenges to something that we know exists rather than something that could exist.
Yeah.
I don't know if other commissioners feel that way.
Can I make one comment, Kevin?
Sure.
I mean, right now, the way that we would process an application for siding is like we did for the recent property, is to go out and evaluate moisture issues. So that's something that we do already. And if there's moisture present based on staff's assessment, we would support a recommendation for removing the siding. I guess I just wonder if we add language in here that shows that the applicant needs to demonstrate that there's moisture damage, and we create that as an exception, we kind of already, that's already part of the process, I guess, if that makes sense.
Exactly. Our guidelines cover it. So
When you say moisture damage, are you talking about paint peeling or mold in the walls, or?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. We've seen with the recent property, there was paint peeling, but it didn't seem to be due to moisture damage based on staff's evaluation of it. So.
Well, if we're trying to if we're trying to think about the technical challenges, that there's something that does exist rather than something that could exist, how would we rework that paragraph?
I guess one option is just to incorporate something that says that the applicant needs to provide details regarding the modern installation and details regarding concerns related to moisture or something like that.
question, as Quentin said, how does replacing one form of siding with another form of siding solve the moisture problem?
Well, one possibility though is you could put a vapor barrier up, like Tyvek, well, which is more air infiltration barrier, but I wouldn't be guaranteed that would solve the problem.
What about, I'm asking kind of the commission or staff has professional thoughts on this too. What if we just focus this on the economic challenges, right? As I'm channeling Carl here a little bit from last meeting where he said, like, look, the technical challenges are what feeds into the economic challenges, right? If the technical challenge to, take off the siding and deal with whatever the issues are related to the replacement. Again, these are for properties that are non-contributing and have synthetic siding on them. If we just eliminated the technical challenge portion and left the economic challenge portion, which would incorporate the technical challenges, right? If there's the reason that the technical challenge would be included is because they are costly, right? I mean, I think we're kind of getting at ultimately the same measure. And I think we generally, as a group, maybe not, feel pretty good about kind of what economic challenges are, the definition here, and being able to compare that. It seems to me that the technical challenges would be incorporated ultimately in reflecting the economic challenges. So the economic challenges, it's a clearer way for us to evaluate the commission or staff or other folks, right? It's being able to look at some cost comparisons. I'm just trying to suggest ideas here that help us get to consensus and get to a place where we're recommending something.
That might make it more objective. I mean, but there would be a significant amount of justification on paper to prove economic factors, I think, which would be unpleasant for the homeowner to undertake, but it seems to me it's the only way to, I don't know, I just don't know.
I think that incorporating the technical challenges into economic challenges would be sufficient, because in that same bullet point that mentions technical or economic challenges, it also mentions that if the impact is negative on building performance or health and safety, which is kind of tangential to technical challenges, so that could cover that half if economic is truly not the real factor.
And are you looking for us to try to vote on this tonight? We said we take 2 to 3 months, right? So we're on month 2. But we're going to get some new commissioners. I think 2 of whom are here, which was great, so that they can come in fresh next month. But I don't know if we want to try to, what do we have? We need, how many of us are there? 7? Do we have 4 of us that are in favor of one thing here to move this forward? Or are we not? Sherry, I see a head nod. I think Lindy and I think, go ahead, Sherry.
This is a dumb thing, but why isn't the technical challenges, why don't you just open the paragraph and say, in some cases, technical challenges could, as like a parenthesis, instead of just making a definition of technical challenges. The implication is that what's been outlined above is what is the expectation. And this is supposed to be about an exception. So addressing it and saying, in some cases, technical challenges could include. And then put the burden then, which result, well, I don't know if I want to say result.
Yeah, I think what I was proposing is that we would just eliminate the paragraph around technical challenges, remove the word, and just basically remove that paragraph, and that the way that we would evaluate these exceptions, we outline kind of all the ways that it could be, sending folks to other places to look at energy efficiency stuff. And when it comes time to look at this exception, we're going to look at it economically, because we know these technical challenges may add up to be something that is cost ineffective. And that is the tool that we'll use to evaluate if this exception should be granted.
I'm there.
I think that's Sherry, Lindy, that's at least 4 of us that kind of in that boat. That's enough. I don't know, Austin, Quentin. And is this a vote that we're taking? I'm sorry, I don't know.
Yeah, you
I
guys
shouldn't be counting people if we're gonna actually vote on this.
I think that would be appropriate.
Okay. Quentin, Austin, Cecile, any other thoughts before we?
No.
Okay, so do we move to approve the proposed amendment?
Oh, wait, I have a question. How
Oh,
much
sorry.
technical thing, because it's addressed in several places. The small paragraph at just above recommended amendment 411 citing exception in red. The presence of modern insulation in the walls of historic homes can also result in moisture damage. Okay, then you just send them to the energy efficiency section, but then down below, let's see. So you're eliminating that whole paragraph that talks about the possibility of future moisture problems, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Right. And you leave in the line, staff and the commission can evaluate other technical or economic challenges on a case-by-case basis?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of do that anyway, I think.
I think that's.
Yeah.
Okay.
So is this basically what I'm showing here? Just delete this paragraph and leave the rest.
That's what I think that's where we're at.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna make the motion here just to try to move things along. I move to approve the draft amendment with the paragraph that starts with technical challenges and ends with synthetic siding and insulation be removed. Or as amended, is that right? Is that how we do this? I'm sorry, I'm not great at this sometimes. Do we have a second?
Pipe will second.
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
I'm going to abstain.
Okay, I think we can do that, right? Yep. Okay, great.
And I just want to mention that on your third sentence on the beginning of the memorandum, the third sentence down, insulation is misspelled.
Oh, wrong. Yeah, thank you. I'll correct that. Insultation, yeah.
All right, I feel like we did that.
Times,
You got-
actually.
Kiddo.
what's it?
It's that way a few times, just FYI.
All right, you guys, we did that. We got that done. That's been a thing. Congratulations to us. Thank you, staff, for the support on this. I know it's been tough. I think we've got crafted something that shows that we are working with homeowners, but I think is tries to minimize the worms that we're opening with this can. I don't know if that summarizes where we're at, but I am happy that we have hopefully put this behind us for a little bit. Okay, sorry. Thank you, everybody. On to item G, report on certificates issued by chair and staff.
Too many screens. Okay, minor review. 203 North Lynn Street. The Union Bakery is getting a new sign. It might be installed now. I don't remember. It looks like this. 614 Oakland, the house that we talked about last month. They're also installing a radon mitigation system. And this is way on the back. It would face the garage and then the alley. 810 Roosevelt Street. This was actually reported to me after the derecho. The siding was damaged, the metal siding. And you know, I went and looked at it, and it was just kind of in a stasis for obviously months because there's snow in this photo. And so I didn't really have a way to reach out. But somehow the owner and I got connected, and she's put in the application to remove the siding and repair the original. The thing that's interesting about this house is it was contributing to its district, but we thought it was kind of a 1930s. I mean, because of this kind of Tudor revival slant to this entry porch. But the details we found, we think it's from the 1890s. Kevin, your image is funny, FYI.
Me?
Yeah, it's sideways and weird.
Oh, sorry.
So one of the things we uncovered, all of the window trim has this kind of low pediment to it. There's also kind of a ghost in the paint of a long, thin triangle and kind of a medallion. I've consulted with a historian who has done a lot of our site inventory forms, and she thinks that this comes from a millwork catalog from something on the Dubuque Davenport area around the 1890s to 1900s. So we think we can date this house earlier. And then they found in this front gable a fan motif that we found on some of our Queen Anne houses that would also support that date. It was just kind of exciting. And this is a project where they're repairing all of that siding and painting it. We had some intermediate reviews between chair and staff. So way back in August of 2019, the original porch, which we see here, was removed, and everything was removed, and tiny columns and an inappropriate railing, and actually just completely inappropriate porch construction was done to this key contributing house in the Jefferson Street Historic District. And over a long period of time, we've been talking to the owner about this. During the derecho, however, the standing seam metal roof was damaged. And so through conversations and other people reaching out, now the project will actually replace the standing seam with a new standing seam. The porch columns are currently being stripped at a place called Ye Old Strippery in Waterloo, Iowa, which I think is just hilarious. We don't know. There's one column that we might not have, but through another porch project, we found a way to copy these columns. The railing will be installed the way it was, modifying it now because of the fact that it was removed. It needs to meet code. So there'll likely be a black metal railing installed on top of the original paneled railing. The skirting will be put back in. The porch will be constructed properly with a tongue and groove floor. As I said, the metal roof will be replaced. 260s dormers that are in the roof will be removed. And finally, this project is actually going to reconstruct in a somewhat traditional manner the internal gutters, which is fascinating. And I've been talking to them about the idea of doing this as a tax credit project, and they're looking into that. Since this is an income property, it serves as the office for John's Grocery. It has the potential to use both state and federal tax credits and get 45% back on all of the costs involved in this project. Now, I do believe that part of that conversation, staff would need to talk to the state because of the fact that original porch construction was removed, but because part of that is putting it back, I think that it would be included. So we're hopeful that this will end up being a really great project eventually. 727 Rundell Street has had multiple pieces of work done. They've changed hands. This little addition right here had a like 1960s door on the side with no steps or anything. It was a modern door in an awkward location. And so we approved removing it. She is also building a slightly larger deck. It'll fit this width, but it'll be longer, projecting into the yard further, so that the railing will be installed appropriately instead of like the modern deck railing here. So there's a sketch that you can see. The front stoop is maybe concrete right now, and it will be actually reconstructed in wood. This is one of those houses where the original front porch has been enclosed and incorporated into the house, so there's no transition inside. So it can never really be a open front porch again. So it will have a front stoop instead. And that's it for that.
All right. On to item H, consideration of the minutes from the May 13th, 2020 meeting. Any amendments? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the May 13th, 2020 meeting.
Rensley moves to approve the minutes from the May 13th meeting.
A second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, the minutes are approved. On to item I, commission discussion. The first one is the letter from Mike Oliveira regarding lead paint. I don't know if there's anything we need to discuss, but since it was in the packet, we put it as a discussion item so we could talk about it.
It was just emailed to staff, and they wanted it sent to you. And you know, if you have any questions about any of their concerns, we can address them if you want, but it's up to you if you want to discuss it.
I have a question about it. When you're removing paint, as far as I know, the latest, greatest tool is that infrared heater that was developed in Sweden. Is that less, does that produce less toxicity in the environment than an electric hot plate or a propane tank or an electric, little electric remover?
Yeah, it is supposed to, it doesn't turn the lead paint into a gas like some of the, like those hot guns, heat guns that people use, that they can be dangerous. The heat gun also can obviously start a fire. So there is that. The speed heater, or the Cobra, is the hot new thing, and it heats it up using the infrared. The bulbs are very expensive, but it heats it to the point where the paint, it becomes kind of melty like cheese. So it can just be scraped off. It does not pop off. So it doesn't stay dry and hard and crispy like lead paint can be. So it's easier to control and contain. And then also there's no dust involved in that process as well. So those are reasons why the Cobra itself is the hot new thing right now.
I would suggest that we make some sort of a statement endorsing use of that product as a way to satisfy people's concerns about safety.
I think Friends has one that you can check out, or did at one point anyway.
Yeah. I mean, it's safety for the user and safety for the neighbors. And Mr. Olivera was talking particularly about complaints of neighbors. So I don't know, just a thought.
I would like to say, though, one thing, that staff does assume that all of our historic properties in districts or not have lead paint. We never assume that they don't. So we go into it, pointing to people to that direction, that they pretty much likely have it inside and out.
I remember in like the commission materials that were all given when we first joined, that there's a couple documents on lead paint. And I wonder how frequently are those shared with homeowners? As someone who did study public health, this is an issue I probably should have paid a bit closer attention to.
Austin, I don't know. I'd have to, since we have 2 new commissioners, I'll be looking at those materials really closely soon. So I will look at them and see what you're talking about. I know that one thing in our guidelines in the paint section, we do talk about lead paint and the fact that there needs to be a safe way to remove it. So in the guidelines, there's a little bit of a mention to it. I would assume that you saw it probably in some of the other just general documents, and we don't tend to share that with the public in a specific way.
Okay. Because this attached photo does seem pretty bad. Young person, flakes could get into the soil. I see definitely a few issues with this particular photo attached in the letters. So.
And I would like to address that then too, because that is 100% taken out of context. This was a project that won an award. And so we got a large series of photos of this project at that time, and they were all labeled, and there are a bunch of photos showing I think it was the homeowner and an architect friend who did the removal. It shows how they did everything properly. They were using the PPE. They did their due diligence. This is not at any time near when the paint was being removed. So this is when they have moved on to repairing the siding. It's later in the project, and all of the lead paint would have been cleaned up and removed. So this photo in particular is taken out of context.
I see.
Great.
Mike?
Any other oh, sorry.
I appreciate the fact that Mike is once again trying to be proactive. I don't mean to be nitpicky with him, but the funding to do what he may think is it's not something that's available in the city, and it should be the responsibility of the homeowner who chooses to paint. And he doesn't address the fact that that paint can also be encapsulated. So I really don't know where he's going with this. I suspect that he would like to see someone else pick up the tab, but I
don't know that we don't have to take any action or do anything. We put it on the agenda because it was submitted to us. So it's like when someone would come to a public hearing, they're welcome to say whatever, they can submit whatever to us.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was simply the fact that the email was, please distribute this to your commission. There was no other explanation or conversation in that email.
Even though his comment is taken out of context in regard to the photograph, is it the kind of thing where others could just skim the page and look at the photograph and go, oh, these don't match, because they jumped to the same conclusion erroneously? And therefore, is it a good idea to take the photo out? That was my one consideration.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that the photo is just in the awards PowerPoint and then the recording of the awards from that year. So, I mean, we could take it out of the PowerPoint, but it's not going to be out of the recording. So,
yeah.
All right, any other discussion on that? All right, seeing none. We've got some outgoing commissioners. Tonight is the last meeting of 3. I think, Lindy, we have one more with you, if I'm correct, right? Yep. So I always kind of find it hard to kind of figure out exactly what to say about members as they leave, but I was kind of reflecting on my time working with Quentin and Helen and Austin, whose last meetings are tonight. And, I always the thing that I think I've been most surprised by on my time in the commission is just the I don't know, just like learning from my fellow commissioners. And so, I thought I'd, talk a little bit about each of their work, and then we can do some more of that. But, I think of Quentin, and he knows more about historic houses inside and out than I think probably almost anyone that I know. His career has been restoring and improving historic houses. He's worked on my house, so I've seen his craftsmanship up close, and it's incredible craftsmanship. I know where the places on my house where he worked, but I don't think other people would know that anyone had ever worked there, and that's, I think, kind of the sign of a excellent craftsmanship. So I think that perspective has been invaluable on the commission. And Helen has been a part of the preservation community for a long time. I knew her name as a preservationist before I even really knew much about preservation myself. So I was really excited when she joined the commission 3 years ago. And, she's been someone I've gone to from time to time, occasionally letting me vent about things that are happening. And she's always very good about making sure I'm on the right path. And I always kind of appreciate her honesty and candor. And I hate to tell you, Helen, those calls may continue after your time on the commission. So I hope you're prepared for that. And I did not know Austin before he joined the commission, but the social media analytics suggested for me to follow his Instagram account, which I did. They clearly knew that his photos of old Iowa City and their modern photos on Instagram is something that I would, in fact, love. I don't know how the social media does that, but they did. And so when Austin was on the commission, I recognized his name as somebody as an Instagram account that I followed. And I think of a couple things. I really think of his voice kind of pushing us to make progress on solar and making sure that we're really thinking about making it easy for our historic houses to be able to kind of work in conjunction with sustainability. And I will His article in Little Village was a kind of a frank conversation about parts of our history that some in our community would rather not remember, but I think we as a commission have really tried to make sure that we're telling the full history, and Austin kind of took that on, and really appreciate his perspective and time on the commission. So I just wanted to, as chair, say a little bit about each of you in terms of what I think. Lindy, you're up next month, so you got that to look forward to. But I really appreciate your work and want to thank you, and thank you for your time and work on the commission.
Thank you, Kevin. It's been an honor to serve.
My 2 cents is that it's really been a privilege to be part of the commission. And I want to thank each and every one of you for encouraging historic preservation in Iowa City. I think everyone has been very thoughtful and proactive and open to new ideas. And I think that your achievements have been many and your setbacks few, but with your leadership, we really need you and encourage you to keep preservation relevant.
Thank you, Kevin, for the kind words. I've enjoyed my time on the commission, even if I've only been able to see most people here in person only a couple times. But I guess if there's anything else I'd like to say going out, I think one thing I would like to see as the commission moves forward, perhaps goes back in person, is that in addition to going through reviewing these individual cases and parcels, is looking at preservation as part of these wider systems. So whether that be sustainability or equity or how neighborhoods function with each other. I think that, and along with bringing more young people into preservation, I think Lindy and I would be good examples of that. But I mean, I have seen on Instagram, on social media, people are interested in this kind of stuff. We're not just a bunch of stuffy old people hanging out in the council chambers. So the energy's there, and I think there's a lot that preservation can do to make ourselves seem more accessible to the community. So it's been an honor to serve, and all the best to whoever will come next and replace me.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Jessica, and thank you, Anne, for lovely leadership, really wonderful leadership.
All right.
Thank you, everyone. And I hope to see you on the outside sometime.
Yeah.
If we're done with this, I think we have at least a couple things just to mention, just so you.
Yeah, I was hoping that there's one thing I want to make sure that we're mentioning. So I think are we good with item 1, the outgoing commissioners? I think so.
Mhm.
All right, commission information. This is kind of other stuff.
So I am going to jump the press release, and I'm really sorry about it, but yeah, our downtown is now listed in the National Register of Historic Places. Woo!
Oh.
It was official as of last week or something like that, I think. So we'll be sending a letter out, and we'll do a press release, I hope, or something. I don't know, but FYI, that is done. So we were successful with that.
Congratulations.
My heart's beating really hard right now.
Yeah, I was hoping that it was going to be one of the things we shared, Jessica.
Yep.
I see it on Wikipedia now. It's up.
That's amazing.
Excellent. We also, just a little announcement. I think there's several things that I'll probably talk about in one of our future meetings from the Preserve Iowa Summit that we had. Just some things that I learned and found out that I'll talk about, just so you're aware. I know that our survey questionnaire thing will go out to owners and contractors pretty quickly here. So that's pretty much done. Oh, and the awards letters for the awards committee, they're being sent out now. I'm sorry, we had a little bit of a delay, but those are the only announcements I can remember at the moment.
I just had one announcement. We have a fellow from the University of Iowa Planning Program that's going to be working with us this summer. And he is an architect by education and training, and now he's getting his master's in planning. And he is going to be helping us with doing some investigation and research into the area around Kirkwood. So south of the railroad tracks. And he's going to be going out, taking photos of all of the homes in that area and kind of documenting descriptions of the homes, year built, that type of thing. And we hope that that information can kind of help with a future reconnaissance survey.
Great. You guys are aware that the neighborhood association there has got a ton of information and history too. They may be a great resource for him at some point.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And just for, we can do this, we'll do this officially next week, but Margaret, who's been with us, is our new commissioner joining us officially next month. And then Noah, who was on kind of throughout the meeting, but just left pretty recently, as one of the other teacher commissioners. So welcome soon. We'll have a more formal welcome next week, but since you were here, I wanted to kind of just introduce you guys to the rest of the team. All right, any other announcements? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Kitson second.
I think Quentin, you're moving. Do we have a second?
Yeah, a second.
Nope.
McGrath, second.
Okay. Yep. Okay. We're good. Quentin, you made the motion. Sherry seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much.